Hey, hey, how are you doing today? I hope well, and I am doing well also, and I'm excited to be here to be able to give you some more information for inflammation, trying to decrease inflammation in your body. And I have a very, very important topic to talk about today. Very important. I think one of the most missed topics ever. And so I'm going to journey through it just a bit. I won't keep you long. How are you all? I'm doing well too. Stay happy, stay joyful, stay peaceful, people. All right. So I want to journey. I hope if you haven't seen yesterday's Facebook Live, please go back and watch that because I talked about some amazing information that most professionals try to steer you away from. And it was really, really good. So make sure you watch that also. Hey, guys. Hey, so we're going to talk about something very, very important. And it's a very serious topic. And I don't think people take it serious enough. And as much, hey, guys, as much as I absolutely think that sugar is just one of the greatest killers, deadly killers, I actually think I have something that I would top even worse than that I think that people really, really need to start to pay attention to. And so hello to you all. And so today I would like to discuss the topic of stress. Now, before you exit out, and because you're like, nope, not worse, I'm fine. I can deal with it. I'm good on stress. I really want to paint the picture for you and allow you to really come into some reality that if you don't get your stress life in order, and I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that and how your body works with this. And how, and again, the reason why we're talking about stress is because inflammation causes stress, and stress is one of the biggest influential killers to your life and body. Trust me when I tell you this. It really is, and people don't realize it in so many ways. And I'm going to get into just a bit of talking about one of the biggest things that derive from not dealing with stress, and that's adrenal fatigue syndrome. And a lot of people have it and they don't know they have it. And you may identify that you actually have it. So stress is a major thing. It is a major thing. And I have learned, to me, in the last, let's say, 5 years, I've learned this has been the biggest mind-blowing journey to discover as it pertains to health. I study health in so many different facets. And I'm telling you, one of the hardest things for me personally, and I'll share a little bit, was to get my stress in alignment, to get my stress in order. And some people, again, they feel like I can handle stress, I can deal with stress. That's a myth. And I will tell you why. A lot of people don't even know. First of all, 80%, I am convinced that at least 80% of people have adrenal fatigue syndrome, whether they know it or not. And I'll give you a few signs of it. But this has been the most major thing that I've had to deal with. It's the hardest thing that people have to deal with. And really, that's why, do you notice that we're in a time where anxiety has increased more and more and more, and it comes from accumulated stress. And so if you don't intentionally, this has to be intentional. This cannot be just like, oh, I can deal with it, I'm good. Nope. Why do you think people are having mental breakdowns? Why do you think mental illness is on the rise? Why do you think people are losing their minds? Now, they may not be locked up in an institution somewhere, but you can communicate with a lot of people and tell their brains are deteriorating. And I do not mean that in a magical sense. I'm talking about literal. Their brain is deteriorating. And I believe in neuroplasticity. So I believe that the brain can change. And a lot of it is affected by some biological things that happen. And of course, when we're dealing with stress, if you have accumulated inflammation, then it's going to add to your life. Do you understand that everything that has happened to you since the time you was a child has accumulated? Why do you think people have breakdowns? It's all accumulated. Time does not heal stress. You have to intentionally put together a plan where you can manage your stress life, but also learn what it takes to de-stress. Stress has to be pressed out. It's lodged so deep into your body that you have no idea. And until you talk to somebody who understands it and they start to identify the symptoms. And there's two, we have what we call the what am I trying to say? We have the, it's like an automated system that goes on in our body. And I want to explain this in a way, because I understand it here. I want to explain it in a way that you can understand it. We have this automated kind of system. It's our nervous system that happens. And for example, when you're breathing, you don't have to think about it. It's automatic. Okay. And there are two particular systems. I love to deal with these two systems that happen within our nervous systems. And one is called the parasympathetic and one is called the sympathetic. And I'll explain exactly what that means because I want you to be able to understand this. Okay. Now, in our sympathetic system, that is the system where it's fight or flight. All right. Our cortisol is released. Our adrenal glands are going. If your child is being hit by a car, I know it's is that somebody? Oh, autonomic. Yes. But the reason why I have to say it's automatic is so that people can know what autonomic means. The actual term is ANS, autonomic nervous system. Thanks, Thea. But it is an automatic system. And that's the way that you will probably understand it. I know the actual language, but you probably don't know what that means. And so with the sympathetic system, our cortisol is released, our adrenals are going. It gives us like that burst of energy that we actually need to be able to handle stress. So it's the fight or flight. If your child is if a car hits your child and the car's on top of the child, there has been cases where people can literally find the energy to lift that car up. If a bear runs into your room, you are going to immediately run as fast as you've ever ran in your life because your adrenal glands are going to get going. That's your sympathetic system. All right. It helps to protect you. But the problem with that is that a lot of people will have this system going even when there's no need for it. Okay. And so now you go over it. Now, and I'll even explain it when you breathe. You can actually check your pulse and check this out because actually when you inhale, you're using the sympathetic system. But when you exhale, you use the parasympathetic system. Now, the parasympathetic system is the system that recovers you. It's supposed to turn off that fight or flight. OK, and it's called they call it rest and digest. OK, so now when you're rested, when you're relaxed, your digestive system gets going. That's why some people's digestive system actually is not good because when you're in fight or flight, your digestive system shuts down. Your hormones, your sex hormones, you're not going to have a sex drive if a bear comes running after you. Okay. You're not going to have to go to the bathroom. If a bear everything gets shut down. Your digestive system shuts down. But the parasympathetic is what rests you. It creates a place where if you're relaxed, you can recover from the stress. That's how our bodies are wired to even go back and forth between the path of homeostasis to balance us out. The problem is that people are overstressed. They have too much cortisol. And again, it's okay to have a little stress. They have too much cortisol. And so then you have a lot of cortisol racing through your body. And of course, when you have too much cortisol racing through your body because your body is telling you turn on because you're stressed out, your adrenal glands are going when they really shouldn't be going. You should really be relaxing. And now your cells are going to start to resist it because you're becoming cortisol sensitive. And so then there's a cortisol resistance that happens. happens. And so now there's a lot of cortisol, but your body can't really use it. And so it takes it away. And then you have several parts of your body where you have high cortisol and low cortisol. And this is really why people wind up with belly fat. Okay, but I won't even go into that. This is why people wind up with a lot of belly fat, because of this imbalance that is happening. Okay. And again, inflammation is triggered. Now think about this. Everything that's happening to you, it doesn't matter if you have gotten sick, if you've gotten a virus, menstrual cycle. These are all stress points. If you've ever had any kind of chronic pain, if you've ever had surgery, if you are stressed at work, if you had a fall, if you take medication from the doctor, it's putting stress on your body. This is all accumulating, running your cortisol levels, running your adrenaline, running all of it. Here is where the problem happens. It's the accumulation of it. And it's the fact that this system does not have an off switch. It turns on, it does not turn off. There is another part of your body that turns it off, and that is the recovery parasympathetic system. When people are not finding ways to turn on their parasympathetic system, then their sympathetic system keeps going. This is why there's an increase in heart rate, an increase in blood pressure, an increase in all of these different things, and you can't bring it down. And it's because this system is being turned on with nothing to turn it off. This continues to accumulate over and over and over again. So when you think you can handle something, eventually you're going to break down. All right. I know, because it actually happened to me. Around 2017, I wound up in the biggest process of anxiety that I have ever known. And I did not understand where it was coming from. And it was because I wasn't getting enough sleep. There was a lot of reasons why it was happening, but I couldn't sleep anymore at night. I had racing thoughts. I had thoughts of fear and thoughts that I was going to die. And I started seeing like 50 million naturopathic doctors. I didn't know what was going on. It was because I had adrenal fatigue syndrome. I was racing and I couldn't shut it off. And I didn't even realize that this was happening until I was like ready to break. And it was the most emotional instability time that I've ever had in my entire life. Okay. And this is why I tell people, you have got to get the stressors out your life. And one of the biggest stressors are people. Do not let people stress you out. Take out a list when you get done with listening to this and write down all the stressors in your life. And if people are involved in that, crazy people, victimized, manipulative, controlling people that make your day dark, get rid of them. I'm telling you that because stress is a killer. It will kill you. It will break down your immune system. It will cause all kind of chronic illnesses. People wind up with cancer. I know people who wound up with cancer because they couldn't forgive. You know, you go through divorce and grief and death. There are some stressors that you can't stop. There are some things you can't stop it. All you can do is learn how to handle, manage, and learn what it means to de-stress. And even in my challenge that I some of you all may have seen yesterday, I said I was doing a 14-day anti-inflammation or anti-inflammatory challenge, right? And in that challenge, I help people most how to turn on your parasympathetic system. There is a way to turn it on. If you take your pulse and you inhale, your heart, your beats start to speeden up. If you exhale, your beats actually slow down. Just try it. This is even a sign of, and so when people are like hyperventilating and things like that, and they're inhaling longer than they're exhaling, that becomes a problem because they're turning on their sympathetic a lot too much. See, we know how to turn that part on. We don't know how to turn it off. So even practicing breathing techniques, which I talk about, I'm telling you, it helps to turn it on, because the longer you can take an exhale, the more your parasympathetic, you'll feel your heart rate actually slow down when you exhale. And so But this is an issue because a lot of people don't know this. They don't know that the stress is accumulated. And again, this is why people are breaking down. Normal people who you like, they used to be normal. What's going on with them? What's going on is they thought that they could handle the stress and was going to avoid this in their life. And there's all kind of stressors. Of course, sugar is a stressor. The way you eat is a stressor. But I want to help you to know what it is that you need to do to make sure that you don't wind up with adrenal fatigue syndrome. And if you do have anxiety, that you know how to reverse it, because there are natural ways for reversing it. You don't want your immune system compromised. The most time when viruses and infections actually rise, do you know when you get a virus, there's no cure for it. It lingers in your body. It actually just stays and it doesn't go anywhere. So if you've ever had a cold, you have the virus of cold. But some people don't experience cold. It stays It stays in a place where it doesn't manifest the symptoms because of the levels of inflammation and how healthy you are in your body. And so if you have a lot of inflammation, a lot of stress, actually viruses are waiting. They're like waiting around for you to be the most stressed, not have enough sleep, and then they rise up. And that's sometimes why people get colds and flus. Whenever I am the most stressed, dormant, yes, y'all will notice this about me, that I have words that come to my head and I'm trying to say 50 million things at once. And so the word don't come, so then I just explain it. So thank y'all. Y'all always help me out. I love y'all. And so it does lie dormant for a lot of people. Some people never experience colds or viruses or infections, the symptoms of it. Even though it's there, they don't have the symptoms. And it's because their body is in a more healthily state. Okay. And so infections and viral infections and the symptoms of all of that stuff will come. Yeah, like remission too. Yeah, actually, that's the word I was looking for, is remission. But yes, it's dormant. Okay. And so when we're thinking about this, we have to understand that stress is what puts the onset of a lot of this stuff. And here's a few things that you actually need to immediately do. Okay. If you are feeling, first, let me just tell you right now, if you have adrenal fatigue syndrome, you're going to have symptoms like this. No matter how much you're going to be fatigued, no matter how much sleep you get, you still feel tired, like you can't shake this tiredness. It doesn't matter how many hours of sleep you get or how much sleep, you just still feel tired. You become impatient because you have conditioned yourself to keep handling stress until you have normalized yourself with it, but you also become impatient to be able to handle it. So when you're very snappy and you're not as patient with people, you probably have adrenal fatigue syndrome. A lot of people who have, they have anxiety. If you have any kind of thyroid problem, Hashimoto's disease, Graves' disease, any thyroid issue, you have adrenal fatigue syndrome. If you have belly fat, you have adrenal fatigue syndrome, because the cortisol, I can see it in your belly that you have an overabundance of cortisol, which actually when you have an overabundance, remember I told you, you also have underabundance of it, which is actually worse than having too much cortisol. Having not enough cortisol is actually worse. Okay. You have adrenal fatigue syndrome if you have belly fat. If you can't lose weight, you like, I work out, you have adrenal fatigue syndrome. And working out ain't gonna help. The reason why is because it comes from the hormone cortisol. Cortisol is not like insulin. You have to lower cortisol in a different way than you lower insulin. You actually have to do low intensity exercising to lower cortisol. So, for example, I love high intensity interval training. I think it's one of the best ways to exercise. Okay. Don't get me wrong. But when I had adrenal fatigue syndrome, I actually had to exercise a little less and do more low intensity exercise. Now, I don't care how some people say you're always happy. The birds are always, the rainbow is shining and the sun is. And I tell people, you're right, because I control my world from the inside out, because I know how, because I don't have stress and I don't get pulled into environments of stress, and I don't let people gossip to me, and I don't let people nag and complain and murmur and talk about people and talk about how broke they are and woe is me, I'm undone, life sucks, I'm nothing, I'm never going to be nothing, I'm never going to pay this house off, I'm never going to do that. I don't let people talk them seeds to me, because your words, they are life and they are spirit. And if you don't have a conversation that produces good life in my environment, we can't have this conversation any longer. And that is very important because your conversation shapes your life, whether you know it or not. Why? Because the words that you speak, they are spirit and they are life. And if you keep saying all this negative stuff and talking all this negative stuff and talking about people and gossiping and all of this and murmuring and victimizing, ain't nobody help me. They didn't call me back. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. I don't want to hear it. I don't have time for it because my life is valuable. And it's important. And I need to put the oxygen mask on myself before I can help anybody else. And I'm called to help a lot of people. So I need to stay healthy. And you have to understand that for your own sake. All right. So here's a few things that you have to immediately stop, because this is what I had to do. So again, low intensity exercise, getting out, taking long walks. I just bought a bike because hey, Christabel, I love you. I just bought a bike because I love to ride out in nature, and it just feels so refreshing. You have to start to do things that you enjoy because, again, there are some accumulated stressors that are going to happen and you can't get around it. But what you do need to do is learn how to manage that other part of you that have not recovered before you break down, before your brain deteriorate. So again, do not let people stress you out. Learn how to say no. I'm not saying, that you have to isolate yourself from the world. That's not healthy either. You do need healthy relationships, and you do need to be able to communicate and things like that. Live a normal life. But I'm telling you, there are just so many people that you may want to detox out of your life because they're bringing toxins to your life and they're bringing toxins to your brain. You need a brain detox too. And so you don't want to go the rest of this year being around people who are toxic and doing things that are toxic. You need to be at a relaxed, peaceful state. You have to balance yourself out before you break down. And I'm telling you, you will break down. I have met tons of people who I could not believe that they had breakdowns because they seem so sober. But yet, if you're not intentionally balancing your life with the parasympathetic system to de-stress from all the accumulation of life, all the trauma, everything that's ever happened to you, even things maybe you didn't deserve or you didn't do. This is trauma being accumulated, and it doesn't just go away on its own. And I think that's what some people think, but it just doesn't. All right. So one of the things I had to do is immediately you have to come off of coffee. You can't have an overabundance of caffeine when you have adrenal fatigue syndrome. That was my issue. I was doing a lot of coffee. I had to actually stop for a while, do some low intensity nature type walks that were very relaxing. But I will say you do need to exercise, even if it's not too much. And I'm not saying you have to stop high intensity interval training. I'm just saying you definitely have to do something that balances you into enjoyment and peace and nature and serenity and all of that. Okay. So I still do high intensity interval training, but I also do things that are just very relaxing and enjoyable. I do exercise in ways that is not a stressor to my body, but this is more so exercise that's adding that recovery part to me. Okay. So I kind of do both of it. All right. And so also deficiencies. If you don't have a lot of nutrients in your diet, so of course your diet, having an anti-inflammatory diet is actually going to help this. Some people are lacking a lot of nutrients, and I'm gonna actually give you just a few in a few minutes. I'm gonna give you a few nutrients that you actually need to take. Coffee is great. I love coffee too. It has a lot of benefits. But if you do have adrenal fatigue syndrome and you have a lot of anxiety and you have racing thoughts and you can't sleep at night, then you do have to kind of come up off a lot of the caffeine or even decrease it by half. I'm not even going to say just take it all the way out. I needed to take mine out because I had cracked. When you, let me tell you, I couldn't sleep at night. I could not go to sleep. I jumped up with racing thoughts, heart beating real fast, palpitations. I had palpitations at least 30 times a day. No joke. And it was scary. I would be running on a treadmill and stuff, and my heart is skipping beats and stuff like that. So now I'm like, do I have a heart problem? Do I have heart disease? Should I go to the doctor? I'm getting all kind of EKG tests and, check my blood. Something's wrong. I'm dying, and your mind start telling you that stuff, and you have to gain back control. And this because your brain gets locked, and it's not fun at all. It's not fun. It's not fun or funny. I laugh at people sometimes when they tell me about it because I know exactly what's going on with them and I know I can help them and I tell them to calm down. I've had people in front of me like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And I'm like, you're not having a heart attack. Your anxiety, you have adrenal fatigue. You're going to have to relax. Okay. And so I understand it, but it's not fun or it's not funny. Okay. And so, because again, I have dealt with this, but yes, you have to reduce the coffee. Now, another myth that people think is that they can get 3 hours of sleep. That's another reason why accumulated stress happens from chronic sleeplessness. And you cannot go 3 hours, 4 hours, without enough adequate sleep for so long. The long-term, consequences of that is beyond anything you can ever know. And I know it because I studied Alzheimer's for years. And so you don't want to not be able to sleep at night, a nice adequate amount of sleep. Some people need 7. You might be able to stretch with 6.5. Some people need a little bit more like 8. And if you're getting not enough, even to just get a little extra sleep once a week can actually help. But you can't go years and years without enough sleep because when you're sleeping, your body is restoring itself. Remember, again, we need to boost the recovery. So when you sleep, your brain is recovering, your organs are recovering. You won't be able to burn fat if you're not getting enough sleep. People have fasted and exercised and ate right and did everything and still just don't get enough sleep at night. And it's like they can't burn any fat. And the reason why is because you got to get rid of these toxins because toxins hide themselves in fat cells. And so people have to detox. They have to recover. They have to balance themselves out in order for them to sometimes even see results. Okay. So you have to get sleep at night. Okay. Now, a few things that, and then I'll end with this, a few things that I could tell you that you should be taking is, of course, vitamin D. Vitamin C is very essential if you have adrenal fatigue because your adrenals, they actually store more vitamin C than any other vitamin. And so you need lots and lots of vitamin C to help restore your adrenal glands, especially if you have adrenal fatigue syndrome. So you might actually have to boost that. All right. Magnesium is amazing because magnesium is a relaxant. It's a muscle relaxer. So whether there's so many forms of magnesium. You got Epsom salt. You can put it in your bath. You can spray it on your body. You can take a supplement by a pill form. You can take a powder form and mix it with water. You can put oil. They have magnesium oil also. So you can have it in so many different ways. I always say, just beware, magnesium is a laxative. So, and certain ones are like magnesium threonate doesn't have as much of a laxative effect, and cheolate don't have really, but like magnesium citrate will have a laxative effect if you take it orally. Now, if you're taking an Epsom salt bath, then that's different. Or even if you're taking the sprays and stuff, it won't have as much as a laxative effect. But magnesium is really good. Now, one of the things that adrenal fatigue syndrome or being overstressed from so much inflammation in the body, it starts to pull on thiamine, which is your B1. So actually, vitamin B1 actually helps to regulate your nervous system. So if you're feeling any type of fatigue, make sure that you are taking a supplement of thiamine. And again, that's your vitamin B1. Actually, vitamin B12 is actually good for that too. Matter of fact, just take a good vitamin B complex. Okay. Now, the complex won't have high dosages of like vitamin B1. So if you need a little extra boost of like B1 and B12, you can take a vitamin B complex, but also take them in addition, especially if you are surely fatigued because your body is being depleted like crazy of vitamin B1. And again, that's going to have effect on your nervous system. And if your nervous system is not healthy, then you're not healthy. That's just that simple. And then, of course, a few minerals that I want to give you: zinc, selenium, zinc and selenium, basically. Those are really, really good, very potent. Now, another thing you also can do is you can take some adaptogens. Adaptogens, they help your body to adapt to stress. So you're talking things like ashwagandha, which I take pretty much several times a week. Holy basil is an adaptogen, and licorice root is also an adaptogen. And of course, oil of oregano really helps too if you have any problems with like a lot of infections, because again, this is about reducing the inflammation in your body. Now, I talk a lot about this. I have a challenge coming out. It's a 14-day anti-inflammatory challenge that is coming out. And I'm going to release the information for it on Friday. I want y'all to jump on board. I want y'all to get healthy. And in this challenge, I deal with a lot of this. I deal with a lot of what I spoke about yesterday. It's a complete challenge that just help you just take back your life and your health. Okay. So I want you to be on the lookout for it. I'm going to send an email out on Friday. I'm going to put it on my Facebook, on my social media outlets. But I deal a lot in this challenge with learning how to balance your life, bring your life back into some balance. I deal a lot with how to recover, what you need, the type of diet, the type of exercises, the best exercises to do, even how to measure, how well your body is recovering. Because some people's body are just not recovering well. And you know that because a lot of people can't even get their heart rate back down, and so that their body is just out of whack. If you got any issues like blood pressures, any pain, any chronic diseases, if you're tired, if you can't sleep, all of this stuff, this is a sign of inflammation and stress on the body. And then when you add to that emotional distress and people that is rocking your world in a negative way, taking you down the dark tunnel, that is a life of disaster, and there's nothing good that's going to come out of that. So I teach you how to activate the parasympathetic parts of you and get you back to some balance in every single way. So we dealing with the stress, we dealing with diet, we dealing with lifestyle changes, we dealing with going against the grain for things that were taught to you that are absolutely wrong, that is causing more sickness and more damage than good. We're dealing with all of it, okay? Nutrients, vitamins, minerals, just everything that you need is the full package. We're dealing with it all in one big journey together, and it's called the Anti-Inflammatory Challenge journey. So be on the lookout for that. Thank y'all so much. Again, I didn't get a chance to do questions. I will get to that. Don't worry. But I did want to get this information out there. Tomorrow, I am going to talk to you about, I'm going to continue the conversation that I even discussed yesterday. So I want you to go back. If you did not hear it, yesterday's message, go back and listen to that, because I want to deal with some things in that direction. And I want to deal with some very detrimental, now, I would say some detrimental things that doctors make us do that literally kill us. And when I'm going to run down one of the top medicines that they even have been prescribing people and scaring people with. And I'm going to just tell you exactly what this medicine does to your body. And this particular topic tomorrow is probably the biggest myth that doctors have ever done for people. Like it's a horror story. It's political. It's about money game. And let me tell y'all, it's just so much that I want to say. I don't even know if I could say it. I'm just so upset with how political things are and how much of a financial gain that the medical industry wants, and how that plays a role on how people wind up dying and how people wind up not being able to recover. Even, I'll say this, even with the virus, for example, there's a particular medicine that actually helps to recover people. But now they don't want to give it to people because the medicine costs $2. A 14-day, it costs $2 to make, and they can charge it for as cheap as $20. But because they can't make no money off this medicine that actually heals people and cures people from COVID, and doctors have said every patient I have given this medicine to has recovered. Now they want to do, they're trying to ban it, first of all. And then they did these false studies where they give the patients this medicine when it's way too late, and they gave them toxic dosages because they're trying to make the outcome bad so that this medicine can look bad, even though this medicine has a reputable history for 65 years, never done anything to anybody. And then they're not giving the patients a particular vitamin that's supposed to go with this medicine, because this medicine isn't really the cure. This medicine is a cure to opening up the cell to receive zinc. So you have to give them this medicine with zinc. They didn't give the zinc to these patients. And so because they want a bad outcome. Why? Because this medicine ain't going to make us no money. We need people to be sick up in here. We need people to be, we need to give people a vaccination. They don't want to give the medicine because they're really trying to push people to get vaccinations. And tomorrow, again, I'll talk about something that's old news. This is all new news. I'm just saying it's hydrochloroquine. It's hydrochloroquine. So that's the particular medicine that actually helps. If you research, it's helped people. But you have to give it to them early on. And you have to give it to them in combination with zinc and some other things that they've been giving them, like vitamin C and stuff like that in their veins. And so, but now they're trying to push for tests to not have this drug. And the reason why is because they really want to push us to vaccinations. And, I don't want to get into that because that's not really, my passion is coming out because what I'm talking about tomorrow is the same thing, is that is this myth that they try to push us towards and they pushed us to actually, in this particular subject that I'll talk about tomorrow, they pushed people into a frenzy and a scare so that they could give them a bad medicine that keeps them sick and doesn't help the situation. And so I want to talk about that again tomorrow because it all does tie with inflammation. Because if you take this medicine and the doctors scare you with taking a bad medicine that you don't even need, then it's going to cause inflammation to your body. It's going to cause stress to your body. And you're not going to even realize that more people have died on this medicine than people who just didn't do anything. And so it's pertaining to your life and your health. And I want you to come back and join me here again. I'll be on at 4:30 Central Time tomorrow to talk about this. And it does kind of continue the conversation again from yesterday's Facebook Live. So I'll meet you back here. I'm sorry I got on a tangent with that, but I'll be back here to talk some more about this anti-inflammatory life. And again, make sure you're looking out for Friday because I will be releasing the information for the 14-day anti-inflammatory challenge to teach you all things about an anti-inflammatory life. And these are all proven scientific, based off of scientific research. So these are proven methods and proven things that can really get your life back in order. All right. Thank y'all so much for watching. Love you guys so much. Peace out. Y'all have a good day. Enjoy your day. All right.